Number of times Spike was falsely blamed. Yeah, I'm surprised more people don't really point this out, but this happens such an egregious amount of times. Like, this poor dog gets, like, 2 steps away from abuse, and it gets more and more frustrating every time you see it. I don't know why the writers figured this would work so much, so many times, but hey, they did, and it just makes the adults look more stupid like everybody wants, so, you know. Extreme comfort during rewatches. Yep, this is just like a natural feel, like, I don't know, there's just something about this show though where it's particularly really strong, like, again, like the nostalgia, obviously, and like the babies, of course, help a lot, and like it takes you back to childhood because of that, and there's just something about like the whole entire atmosphere of the show. Like, one of my favorite examples is just like the beginning of Psycho Angelica, where they're hanging around and ordering a pizza and stuff. Miss Carol said fuckers. Yeah, like, if you look at the lip sync and stuff, and like, you can kind of also hear like the beginning of an F sound, like, as they're saying whatever it is that Miss Carol thinks about her kids, and like, obviously it's cut off in the actual like show itself before you see it, but I feel like those details just like kind of line up that it was supposed to be fuck. And I don't know, I feel like fucks probably just flows better than fuckers, and this is a funny topic that I'm talking about. And by the way, Miss Carol for Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl, I mean, just look at that stupid design, I love it. Angelica is the way she is due to Charlotte and Drew. Yep, this is something that becomes obvious, like, if you're just, like, watching the show again later on in life, and you start to pick up on subtext and are more familiar with, like, parenting and crap like that. And yeah, unless if you're some weirdo who just blindly watches anything and gets mad at cartoon 3-year-olds for acting up, this isn't too obvious. But Charlotte and Drew, like, they don't seem to despise Angelica or anything, but they're just really ignorant and dumb and constantly kind of in their own world and seem to focus on, like, business a lot more. And I don't know, it's hard to describe, like, why they become, like, such irritating people at times, and really ignorant. Like, it's better for you to just see it yourself and notice how, like, hypocritical and dumb and thick they can be. Mentions of Chuckie's mom in earlier episodes. Yeah, this is from, like, season 1, earlier season 1, back when you could tell that they weren't really sure what they wanted to do with Chuckie's mom. Like, it seemed like she existed in some sort of way, but they didn't really want to, like, design her or anything, and they're like, okay, I guess Chuckie has a mom, but we don't know what to do with her character yet, and you could have seen all of this in a now old video, sad to say that, along with this next entry. Barbecue Story Woman, this is the most curious thing that's just left out in the open in the show, and that's exactly what it is, just the beginning of Barbecue Story. You see this woman next to Chaz, and it seems like she's supposedly be Chuckie's mom, but of course Chuckie's mom, revealed later on, looks nothing like this, and we never see this person again afterwards either, and like, people have kind of like, I mean, it's a retcon, but people have kind of like putting together who this could be, and are saying like that's probably like a relative of Chaz, because just look how similar they are, and that makes sense, because I don't know, I can see how it can be weird if you, like, both marry and have a kid of somebody who looks extremely related to you, but we're going to talk about this person a bit more later on. Helped kicked off Nick's amazing diversity in the 90s. Yeah, Nickelodeon for the time in the 90s, they were super progressive and had so much diversity, and sadly, I feel like that kind of got, like, toned down somehow by the 2000s and even 2010s, like, when you think that would only increase, but I don't know, even though I don't watch the channel anymore, I feel like it's probably better now than it was a bit ago. But anyway, at the 90s, like, it was at the absolute best, and for that time, too, it was like, whoa, wowee. And yeah, like, while it's not the most, like, prime example or the first, I do feel like Rugrats definitely helped, because just, like, every random person looked different in that show, and in the earlier episodes, like, the random, like, kid of the week that Tommy would just, like, befriend for that one episode, like, they always look different, and then obviously Susie becoming a major reoccurring character is the big thing. And yeah, I feel like that helped let, like, Nickelodeon's, like, huge diversity back then and all that, and how it wasn't uncommon to see shows with, like, a non-white protagonist, like Shelby Woo and Alan Strange, and yeah, it was pretty cool how it helped do that. Backstage drama. This is something that's become more well known over the years, and Yeah, it's exactly what it says. There was some, like, controversy backstage. I say backstage, I think it's a live performance show, like, behind the scenes of just, like, writers' conflict and stuff between everybody working on it, like, especially with Angelica, like, one end thought that, like, she was going to be too much of a bad influence and ruined, like, the nice, happy charm of the show, while others thought that she could be a good look onto why a child might develop into like this misbehaving, selfish demeanor, like I was kind of talking about with her parents earlier. And I can see both sides. Like I can see why like a kid would mimic Angelica, but I also like the idea of showing like, hey, these parents are not doing that good of a job, and this is kind of the consequences of what happens to it. It's not really the kid's fault. But yeah, this also worsened when they found out they had to do more work than originally intended, which leads to this last entry for this layer. Season 3 was original intended to end, and that's all it is to it. There was originally just going to be 3 seasons, as was the standard back then, but the show, of course, did so well that Nickelodeon was like, hey, let's keep on making money off of this, and they had to produce more seasons, and it's fine. I think the next 2 seasons after that were perfectly fine, and then there was nothing else after that. But yeah, this layer was surprisingly kind of like very vague in general, and sorry about that, but next layer we'll probably be able to like more specify things, and it'll of course be more weird and juicy, so I'll see you then.